Free my daddy, and I'll make you walk." The courtroom exploded with laughter. Lawyers smirked. Reporters whispered. Even a few people in the gallery shook their heads. A tiny 8-year-old girl stood in oversized shoes, clutching a worn-out stuffed rabbit. Her voice never trembled. The judge gently leaned forward. "Sweetheart, that's not how court works." But the little girl looked directly at the man in the wheelchair near the front row. "I wasn't talking to you," she said quietly. "I was talking to him." Suddenly, the room became completely silent. Everyone knew Daniel Carter as the mechanic who had been arrested for stealing medical equipment from a private rehabilitation center. The evidence looked overwhelming. Security footage, fingerprints, a witness. Even Daniel admitted he had entered the building that night. What nobody asked was why. His daughter Lily sat quietly through every hearing, never crying, never interrupting. She simply held her father's hand whenever deputies allowed it. Daniel had raised Lily alone since her mother passed away from cancer 5 years earlier. He worked 2 jobs, skipped meals, sold his truck, did everything possible to pay for Lily's education while hiding one painful truth. Every Friday night, instead of resting after work, Daniel secretly volunteered at a small community rehabilitation center. He repaired broken wheelchairs for free. He fixed walkers nobody else wanted. He believed everyone deserved another chance to stand. Lily watched all of it. She learned something most adults never did. Kindness leaves footprints, even when nobody notices. What no one inside that courtroom knew was that someone Daniel had helped years earlier was sitting only 20 feet away, and he had no idea who Daniel really was. The prosecutor painted Daniel as a desperate thief. He entered restricted property after midnight. He removed expensive medical devices. He intended to sell them. The headlines spread quickly. Mechanic steals from disabled patients. Neighbors stopped waving. Customers canceled appointments. Daniel lost his small garage. His landlord demanded rent immediately. Life collapsed piece by piece. Still, Daniel refused to defend himself by exposing another person's secret. Even his lawyer became frustrated. "Daniel," she whispered, "there is something you're hiding. I know, but if you don't tell the court, you're going to prison." Daniel lowered his eyes. "I gave someone my word." Across the room, Lily watched every word. She remembered that rainy night. She remembered why her father had gone to that rehabilitation center. It wasn't to steal. It was to return something. Months earlier, Daniel had repaired an advanced robotic walking prototype that belonged to a wealthy medical foundation. The chairman's teenage son had desperately needed it after a devastating accident. The family couldn't afford the repair because insurance refused to cover the damaged prototype. Daniel secretly fixed it without charging a single dollar. When the grateful father tried paying him, Daniel smiled. "Just promise me one thing. If someone ever needs kindness more than money, choose kindness." The chairman never forgot those words, but he never learned Daniel's full name. Now that same chairman sat inside the courtroom. His name was Michael Hayes. Months after his son's recovery, Michael himself suffered a spinal injury during a highway accident. Doctors believed he would never walk again. The robotic rehabilitation system Daniel had repaired became Michael's only hope. Today, he attended court only because the rehabilitation center sponsoring his recovery owned the equipment Daniel supposedly stole. He believed Daniel had betrayed everyone until Lily spoke. She looked directly at Michael. "You remember the blue toolbox?" His eyes narrowed. "The man who fixed your son's machine." Michael froze. She slowly nodded. "That was my daddy." The courtroom became perfectly still. Michael's hands began shaking. "No," Lily continued. "The machine wasn't stolen. My daddy brought it back after fixing it again. He didn't want anyone to know because he promised to help people quietly." Daniel closed his eyes. The promise had finally surfaced. Michael suddenly asked his assistant for a phone. Within seconds, calls started flying across the courtroom. The rehabilitation center director answered first, then the chief engineer, then security. One forgotten maintenance log appeared in the system. A technician admitted they had mistakenly labeled the repaired equipment as missing before updating inventory. The security footage showed Daniel carrying the machine inside, not taking it away. His fingerprints belonged there because he repaired it. The witness, a night guard, he confessed he assumed Daniel was stealing because he arrived after hours. Nobody had checked the repair authorization stored in an unopened email. One simple mistake, one innocent man, an entire life destroyed. Michael slowly pushed himself forward in his wheelchair. His voice cracked. I know this man. He gave my family hope when nobody else would. Then he looked at Lily. You said, if I free your daddy, you'd make me walk. The courtroom waited. Lily smiled through tears. No, my daddy already did. You just forgot. The judge dismissed every charge immediately. Daniel walked free before sunset. Outside the courthouse, reporters rushed toward him. Microphones stretched in every direction. They expected anger, bitterness, revenge. Instead, Daniel simply said, people make mistakes. The important part is having the courage to correct them. A week later, the rehabilitation center publicly apologized. Daniel received his garage back. Customers returned. Some traveled hours just to support him. But Daniel accepted only enough work to pay his bills. Every Friday evening, he still repaired wheelchairs for free. Nothing changed, except now, people noticed. Months later, Michael stood during physical therapy for the first time. His legs shook. The room held its breath. One careful step, then another. He looked across the room. Daniel and Lily were smiling quietly. No cameras, no speeches. Just three people sharing a moment that money could never buy. Sometimes, miracles don't begin with medicine. Sometimes, they begin with a mechanic who refuses payment. People often underestimate the quietest person in the room, but kindness has a strange way of returning when it's needed most. Have you ever seen someone judged before anyone knew the full story? Share your thoughts below. And remember, the smallest act of kindness may someday change a life you never expected.